So, what to expect? Our session today will kick off with a conversation between our Kickstarter games creator, Simon Filice, and Kickstarter's games coordinator, Asia Prieto, discussing Micro May and how you can best prepare for your project in our upcoming open call. And the second part of our session will be a presentation from Asia about the campaign process itself. So she'll walk us through building a draft of for a project all the way through fulfillment. I also want to call out that we have the Q&A box function on for this webinar. So to submit your questions, please use the Q&A box in your Zoom toolbar. If you see a question that you'd also like answered, please make an upvote and we'll make sure to prioritize those high interest topics. We'll have time at the end for questions, so we'll do our best to get through as many questions as we can in that time. The chat box, also feel free to use this section to drop any comments, reactions, observations into the chat. And our team will also be sharing helpful links and resources throughout the presentation. So if you have any questions, please use the Q&A box to let others upvote and keep things organized. So with that, I'll hand it over to Asia and Simon to get us started.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Yvonne, for that awesome introduction. So before we dive in, I want to set the stage for what Micro May is all about. So Micro May is our open call celebrating small games with a big impact. From wallet-sized wonders to mint tin masterpieces. Creators launching a micro game on Kickstarter in May will be featured in a curated collection that will be promoted all month long. We'll drop the link in the chat so you can submit your project and be part of it. Now let's get into the history and impact of micro games. These small but mighty games have truly carved out a unique space in the gaming world. And Simon has some really great insights on why they continue to resonate with both creators and players alike. So I'm going to hand it on over to you, Simon, and start, our Q&A here. Can you talk a little bit more about your background as a games creator and how you first got involved with Kickstarter?
Yeah, so I'm Simon, and thanks for having me. I've been backing board games on Kickstarter since 2016, and I've backed a bunch of cool MIDI instruments back then too, and I still play them since I'm a music teacher. And that's actually around the same time that I started game designing. I started designing games in university because I wanted to make games that I wanted to play for people that I wanted to play with. And the first game that I designed was a party game called Fave Game, and my housemates and I would play it daily.
Awesome. So speaking to that, can you talk a little bit more about your upcoming micro game campaign?
Yeah, so the my personal one?
Yes.
Yes, so my personal one is called One Card Maze Season 3, and it's our going to be our third Kickstarter and our third Kickstarter for One Card Maze. And so One Card Maze is a wallet of 18 mazes, and they look like these. And so the point of them is you start and you flip and you rotate the card to get to the exit. Where are you? And so the exciting thing about season 3 is all 18 cards in the wallet this time will be connected. So you'll start from maze 1 and you'll move your way all the way through to maze 18 in a multitude of different ways. And so each kind of season we've done something new. The second season we made boss mazes. So you fought a boss that was in the middle, as well as still doing the maze. And yeah, so there's a number of different kind of one card mazes.
Oh, that's so awesome. So on the talk of Micro May, can you kind of speak to, its origin and like what you've noticed changing over time?
Yeah, so the origin of Micro May is from the mind of Ben Downton. He is the designer of Micro Dojo, 99 Ninja, and Micro Midgard. He started this idea with Nicole Amato to raise the status of smaller games. He and I were connected because we were some of the only game designers in the board game scene in Dubai, where I lived for the last 2 years. I then took it over from him because I wholly believe in the power of the game design scene, because I've been helped by so many people in it. It has shown me that people want to help other people want to work together, and we're so much stronger together. I've also seen Micro May change from a small group of designers working together to now where Kickstarter has made it an open call and has decided to also raise awareness to the quite popular niche.
Oh, I love that. I'm relatively new to the games industry, and like I totally agree with and resonate with what you said. Like people are so willing to help and share, and get so excited about projects. So I love to hear that that's your experience too. Can I ask a little bit of why did you choose Kickstarter for your own micro game campaign specifically?
Yeah, so we chose Kickstarter because it was where we were and our fan bases already were. But also, Kickstarter just has the largest reach. It is the most well known and seasoned crowdfunder, and it really promotes creative projects.
Awesome. We love to hear it.
Mhm.
Um, what defines a micro game and what makes them appealing to both creators and backers?
So there's no hard and fast definition yet, but I like to say that it's any game that can fit into a large pocket. Microgames fit a huge amount of game into a small amount of space, and they're so appealing to backers because they travel well, they don't take up a lot of space, and some of them can even be played without a table, like One Card Maze. I think they're also kind of in response to the big overproduced games that take way too long to set up and play.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I feel like one thing I never considered as whenever I started Kickstarter is like backing projects and then finding space for all of these projects. So micro games are really lovely because they don't take up as much space, though I love larger games as well. Um, so speaking of micro May, like what are you most excited about for this open call in 2025?
Well, first off, it's so great that Kickstarter has decided to make it more official this year. I think it's great for designers, backers, and board games in general because we will be able to collectively define this genre better by producing more micro games. I also think it's awesome for Kickstarter because it seems that Kickstarter is really defining themselves well in the board game realm. I am also really excited for the open call since it'll bring a lot of exposure to these games. It will also be really cool to see the Micromay badges on all of the Micromay games.
Yeah, absolutely. So what type of advice do you have for creators thinking about launching their first game in May and participating in micro game May?
Yeah, the biggest question. So my first piece of advice is to ask as many questions as possible, and designers are so lucky with all the resources at their disposal now. There is the Micromay Facebook group where designers ask for advice, talk about their Kickstarter launch pages, and talk about potential crossovers that they can do between their games. And then there's also Board Game Design Lab on Facebook, which is overflowing with expertise and advice. So that's where I'd start.
All right, that's really great advice. I want to surface a couple of questions that came in ahead of this conversation. I know somebody asked, can you submit a game to Micromay when you plan to launch the campaign in June? So one of the big stipulations with Micromay and participating in Micromay is that we want to have a project live in May at some point. So you can launch kind of any time during May, but you just want to make sure that your project will be live during May. And then I think I think we posted some information more about that in the chat. And then also too, there was another question of how you will assess applicants to the open call. I think this was dropped in the chat, but if not, I'm sure someone will drop it now. But there is a kind of microsite that you can follow a prompt and apply to participate. And so we advise like submitting it through there so that way you can get your awesome badge and be included into the curated collection of projects. So let's head on over to the Kickstarter site and Simon can walk us through some upcoming Kickstarter micro-made games that are coming. So let me just share my screen here. I have a million tabs open, so bear with me here. Alrighty, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Alrighty.
Yeah, so can you first show the Discover open call? Because that's so cool that Kickstarter's
Yeah.
in that. So if you scroll over Discover, under the open calls, Micro Maze right there. So that's where you can see all of the games. And like you said, Asia, when you sign up for that open call, all of your games will show up there. So yeah, so there's One Card Maze Season 3 um, down right there. I'll just talk to a few of them. Oh yeah. So thanks for clicking on it because I'm really excited. If you scroll down, we got a review from Tom Vassell, who's like the most famous board game reviewer. So that's pretty exciting. Yeah. So if you go back, I'll speak to a few. I don't know a whole lot of these, but cat spotting is cool because it's also something similar from last year. They did peep spotting last year, and what might seem like a kind of like a small memory game is actually a really fun like party memory game. And so it's a small pack of cards, as you can see there, and you're trying to find your cats in the kind of like the big main card in the middle. And then I don't know a whole lot about the other ones, but if you could just kind of scroll through and show how many of those already signed up, which is exciting. There is one more, Banana Boy. Yeah, Banana Boy versus Unicorn. I've seen this. The cool thing about Kickstarter is you can see games being built from the very bottom. Charles has been working on this for a while and kind of sent some pictures in, some names into the Facebook groups, and we've all been kind of like talking about and helping him, yeah, kind of work on this. Also, if you scroll down, there's already 25-ish games on here, which is exciting.
And hopefully more to come soon after this
Yes,
webinar.
definitely.
All right, I'll
And then
stop sharing. Oh, sorry, was there another one you wanted to? Okay, stop sharing my screen. Awesome. Well, thanks for giving a little appetizer of what's to come, and hopefully there will be more projects that are added there. We have a presentation to kind of talk a little bit more about how to have a successful campaign. So let me bring that up. Righty. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
yes.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. All right, so I hope, our conversation that we had has gotten those of you watching excited about the potential of running a campaign and participating in Micro May. So let's take some time to discuss the fundamental elements of running a successful Kickstarter campaign. So here's me. My name's Asia. I'm game coordinator.
Sorry to interrupt. I think you need to hit the slideshow button because it's like frozen right now on the deck, PowerPoint deck.
Oh, thank you, Becca. My bad. Let me X out this. Is it working now?
I'm still seeing like the inside of your deck.
Oh, weird. Okay.
Maybe you could try sharing it if it's working for you.
Yeah, I can stop.
If you want to stop sharing, I'll just.
Yeah, sorry about that. It's popping up on my end, but.
1 second.
People in the chat are more versed with the screen sharing than me. There we go.
Oh, okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Yvonne. Okay, we can go to the next slide. Right, so my name's Asia. I'm the games coordinator at Kickstarter. I've been at Kickstarter since March of 2023, so going on 2 years. This is my first games industry job, and I'm having a great time, meeting a lot of great people, and having a lot of fun. Outside of work, I can be found trying to make my TBR list smaller rather than bigger. And I just started reading the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, which is a lit RPG, if anyone's familiar with it. So I am not succeeding in making my TBR list smaller because that series has like 8 books in it. And outside of that, I also like playing cozy games on my Steam Deck. So next slide. So to kind of like give a brief agenda of like what we're going to get into, I'm going to talk about everything you kind of need to know about Kickstarter, some facts and figures on games of Kickstarter, and highlighting also some micro games from last year. I'm going to run over some campaign basics and then also to some best practices with some best practices for Kickstarter and like a little rundown checklist. Next slide. So what do you need to know about Kickstarter? So the first thing is that we operate on an all or nothing funding model. And this is set up in a way to ultimately speak to our values of bringing creative projects to life, in the sense that we want to be champions of our creator success and for you to raise what it is you need to bring your project to life. And while we can always hope for more, our all or nothing funding model guarantees that you're not going to have to deliver on less. And this is, vital across all different categories, but, specifically for games, you're, going to have to meet certain like manufacturing quotes and stuff like that, figuring out shipping. So we want to make sure that you're set up to succeed. And ultimately, our funding model is there to provide the resources necessary for creators to make their creative vision come to life, and ultimately be successful. So the next is reward crowdfunding. And that's pretty self-explanatory. A project is built around rewards that backers can support to ultimately fund your project. And the next is that Kickstarter is a creative charter. So Kickstarter is a public benefit corporation, which means we operate as a for-profit business, but with a broader awareness of essentially, trying to leave the world a better place than how we found it, in the sense that we have a critical eye towards fostering social and public good. And then lastly, all projects require a creative outcome. So what kind of separates Kickstarter from something like a GoFundMe is, GoFundMe, you're supporting a cause or an individual. With Kickstarter, you're supporting a creative outcome, a creative vision, a project, a game, a micro game. We can head to the next slide then. So here's some Kickstarter, some really cool facts and figures that breaks down Kickstarter by the numbers. So 255,000 plus projects have successfully funded on the site, leading to $8 billion in pledges raised across 23 million backers, which is really awesome to see, and hopefully counting and going up higher this year and beyond. Next slide. And we'll break that down even further for games as well. So for games on Kickstarter, 43,500 plus games have successfully funded on the site, leading to a raise of $2.6 billion in pledges. Games is one of the top performing categories on the site. And these numbers speak to that. And on the right-hand side, you can see an example of a really successful board game that launched on Kickstarter, which raised over $4 million and had 10,000 plus backers. You can go to the next slide then too. Thank you, Yvonne. And we're really putting the micro in Micro May. We're breaking these numbers down even further for some stats from 2024. So last year, Micro May brought in $309,000 plus pledged to successful projects across 7,766 total backers, which led to like a really awesome successful fund rate of 83% of Micro May projects were successfully funded, which is really great to see. And on the right-hand side, Simon spoke to this project earlier. This creator earlier who was doing the cat spotting campaign for this upcoming Micro May, but this was their Micro May campaign last year. It's done by Jason Tam. And that project raised $4,718 with over 400 plus backers. So what are some of the benefits of launching on Kickstarter? So one of them is that you can connect directly with your audience. There is no middleman. So it's a direct line from yourselves and your project directly to your backers. And then also it can reduce barriers and allows you to take risks. Utilizing crowdfunding allows you to take on all the risks that come with bringing a creative project to life, but more on your own terms. You also get the opportunity to test your ideas. There is the opportunity to utilize the Kickstarter platform to test the market of your product, like how wide is this market, how deep is this market, and what is your market craving to see from that your project can specifically provide. And then lastly, it gives you the opportunity for creative independence. You get to make on your own terms and have creative control. And rather being, typically beholden to like a stakeholder or, outside funding or a publisher, you're really only beholden to your own vision. And then, of course, the backers who ultimately come out to support and see that vision come to life. Next slide. So we're going to go into and talk about some different micro games that launched last year. I know that Simon can probably speak a little bit more to these as well. But this one specifically is Micro Midgard, which raised 25,115 euros across 839 backers. And I know you were telling me a lot of interesting things about this project yesterday, Simon, if you want to speak to it.
Sure, yeah. So this is Ben Downton's most recent project, and I think the cool thing about it was it started as a micro game, and then he surprised everyone right in the middle of the campaign and made a large version of it. And if you supported backed the small version, you'd also get the large version. And then the small version is really cool because it has like a whole like board, all of that fits into like a small micro-sized box.
Uh, go to the next slide, Yvonne, please. And then Simon, I'll obviously let you speak to this one since this one's yours.
Yeah, so this was last year's. It was the first year we did the actual plastic wallets. Our first like one card maze season one was just a print and play. Exactly what you said, to test the market, see what people were interested in, see kind of which direction our backers and our audience wanted us to go into. And they obviously really wanted the physical copy. So we made the 4 wallets, all like plastic wallets that you can now take your games to go. And as you see there, it was more than 300%, 350% funded, 1,050 backers, and we've actually sold over 4,000, or sorry, we sold the whole 4,000 wallets, which is very exciting.
Awesome. Get
Yeah.
to the next one. So this game, Park Life, was created by Dylan Coyle, and I got the opportunity to meet them and see this really awesome game at Gen Con last year, and it is as adorable as the picture looks. And this was kind of like one of my first introductions to the concept of like micro games and micro May. And this really awesome project would manage to raise $20,707 across 677 backers. We can go to the next slide. And then this project, Good Dog, Bad Zombie. And I know, Simon, we were talking about this one as well, but another really successful project that raised $158,673 from almost 2,000 backers. And if there's anything you want to add about this project too, Simon, feel free.
No, that was all. It's just a
Okay.
really impressive
Yeah.
stat for this one.
So we can go to the next slide then. All right, so I'm going to give a rundown of some campaign basics and also like lead into some best practices. So kind of the first step of like whenever you kind of have this idea to launch a Kickstarter campaign is to define that idea and identify your audience. Are you creating an RPG? Are you creating a video game? Are you making a tabletop game? Are you creating a micro game? And who is this audience? Who's going to be interested in playing this game and wanting to play this game? And who's going to want to build a fandom around your idea and your project? And kind of once you have that figured out, you're going to want to work out how you're going to make it and how much it costs. So that's going to like getting quotes from manufacturers, and figuring out your shipping costs and stuff like that. And this will be a really vital point in creating your Kickstarter in general, because you're going to use this information and these numbers to build a funding goal, which will be, pretty vital for understanding your concept and your Kickstarter as a whole. So once that's all worked out, you'll want to start to connect with that audience and share your work. So this is just something that's going to take time and consideration. We have a recommendation of doing this at least 3 months prior to your launch, but this can also be something that takes a little bit longer. And essentially what you're going to want to do is start making your audience aware of your project and getting them really, really excited about it. And once you've kind of done that, then you can start the process of fleshing out your campaign page. So building up your campaign page by like adding art assets and just making a really great presentation for your game. It also helps to film a video. That being said, if you go on the site right now, you'll find tons of projects that are super successful that don't necessarily have videos. But a good analogy that I like to use is like, when was the last time that you went to the movies and saw a movie that you didn't see a trailer for first? So having a video is a great way to kind of put your best face forward for your project and kind of make a trailer and make people excited about wanting to support your project. So we highly recommend having a video for your campaign. And once that's all tucked and squared away, you can submit your project for approval. And your project will be sent off to our trust and safety team, who will evaluate it, and that process typically takes 3 to 5 business days. Once you've been approved, you'll enter into the pre-launch phase, and you'll have a pre-launch page set up. So you can either traffic people directly onto that and they can be followers of your campaign page. Or if you're someone who maybe is coming from, you have your own community built in Discord or a newsletter, and you kind of want them to congregate there and have all their channels of information there, you can kind of share your pre-launch page there and like get them excited about it and just make them aware of like, you have a Kickstarter that's launching soon. And then after the pre-launch phase, is complete, you'll enter into obviously launching your project. We typically recommend a 30-day launch window for your project. Some campaigns do it shorter, some campaigns do it longer, but 30 days tends to be the standard. And then after you've run and successfully funded your campaign, you'll enter into the post-campaign funding and fulfillment stage, which is essentially, collecting funds from backers and then getting those funds distributed so you can work on the process of making your game and getting it out there. And then, of course, getting it created and then sent out to backers to get them into the hands of the people that are super excited and supported your project from the start. So we can go to the next slide. So to round out this conversation, I'm just going to go over some like really best practices that we like to, advise creators on. So one of them is, to have projects backed, to back projects and have that like kind of visible on your page. And one of the reasons why, we bring this up is like Micromay is a really great example of the importance of this. So Micromay is built on the passion of creators. And what better way to support that passion than to support these projects by backing them? Backing projects shows a vested interest in the games community and is a great way to start building rapport with potential backers and kind of signaling that you're excited about the community and you really greatly support it. Another best practice is Tuesdays. Tuesdays are our big launch days. We don't have there's not necessarily like hard data or science behind that. But a saying that we like to have is that Mondays, everyone is busy. Tuesdays, people are looking for something. So there are a lot of great benefits to launching on Tuesdays in the sense that that's when all of our big launches happen. So there's lots of traffic on the site. That being said, you can launch any day during the week and still be super successful. Though I will say we don't necessarily recommend launching on weekends because you're really competing with a lot of different things for backers' attention. So the next thing is to ask for help. Our team, the outreach team, me specifically as well, and people on my team are here to support you, not just at the start of your campaign or before you launch, but after as well. If you have questions or concerns, you can definitely reach out to us. And I think on our next slide, I'll have like a link to my email will be listed there, but absolutely always ask for help. And something that, as I mentioned earlier in this presentation, this is my first games industry job. I'm super new to this industry and I'm here and able to give advice because I have met some really incredible, knowledgeable people who have shared their knowledge with me. So trust that same type of, benefit extends to you as well. And as you participate in things like Micromay or go to conventions or meet people in the industry or just find games that you think are really cool, ask questions and ask for help because it can really take you a long way. And then lastly, we have a saying that Kickstarter is fuel to a fire and not a fire starter. So whenever I was discussing the campaign basics of like getting your game out there, but finding your audience and getting them excited and channeled to your project, that's a super core and essential part of having a successful Kickstarter campaign. And how we can kind of feed into that success with our built-in audience and all the things that Kickstarter can offer is really by adding fuel to that fire. And ultimately, we want to be able to feed off of your own momentum that you've built and ultimately push you towards success. So next and last slide. Well, thank you all so much for your time. I hope this was helpful, and I think we'll have a little bit of time for Q&A. I see there's like a lot of messages in the chat. I haven't been able to catch up, but if you have any questions or if you want to reach out to us directly, you can contact us at games@kickstarter.com. That goes directly to my inbox. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. So hopefully I think we have some time for a Q&A, so we can take some time if you have questions for me or for Simon. I'm happy to answer any. I'll try to start going through the chat here.
Thank you so much, Asia. What I'll do, I'll just funnel up some questions for both you and Simon. So what I'll do is I'll just start going through some of the questions that were posed in the Q&A box. So the first question, there's a few folks asking about, and I'll address this to both Asia and Simon, about what constitutes a micro game. Is like, could it be a board game? Could it be digital? Is an 80 card game could be considered a micro game? So I think we just want to know more about what is a micro game, or what can be considered under this open call.
Simon, I'll let you answer that one if you would like.
Sure.
I'll let you go to the expert here.
I'm just gonna let you start. So I'm looking at my game shelf here. And so yeah, so I'll start with One Card Maze is an 18 card game. I think that's probably the smallest I've seen. Yeah, I think that's the smallest I've seen on there. I think where we kind of got the idea was this is the Tiny Epic series by Gamelin Games, and so they're Tiny Epic games. That this game specifically has like a giant board. It's way bigger than this, but and so it comes in a small box. And so I think the idea that I like to say is this: it can fit in a small pocket. So this could fit in a a large pocket. So a large, like a small bag or a large pant pocket or something like that. And then I think this year too, we kind of wanted to extend it from micro games to other things as well. So micro digital games like video games would also fit into that. Asia, did you want to add anything else to that?
No, I think that sums it up really well.
Thanks.
Great. Thank you. So the next question that I'll address is from Chris. And their question is, I have dedicated all my time to developing my product and have not developed a social media audience. And I'm wondering how to develop a successful campaign without an existing audience before launch.
Yeah, so I'll start that one. I'm really grateful to say that I haven't spent any money yet on actual advertising. So I like traditional advertising. This year we're gonna try in the next month or so. But yeah, so the way I've done it is like the community. So that's why I so strongly talk about the community. Facebook is really great for just kind of like asking this question and seeing kind of where other people get their answers from. I also think just kind of sharing your game on there. People love to see a game being built from the bottom and working towards it and being a part of it. And then on Instagram, I have just like DM'd everybody, and not in an annoying way, and in a questioning way. Um, how asking how I can help them or how they can help me, and it's really just been a whole exchange. So I've been lucky that like I said we gave this game as a print and play. So originally it was a print and play, and so that's just a bunch of files. And so what I did was I sent the files to people and I said, here's the game for free. Would you like to make a video about it? Would you like to make a crossover card? We have a cat spotting and a peep spotting card as a one card maze. And so I would say over the next month before May, really just make those connections. Those connections are what's going to make your campaign awesome. I think also I'm really passionate about Micromade because it's all about the community. We can help each other. We last year we had all of everyone's Micromade on our pages, so it was like 23 different projects on everyone's pages. So anytime that someone went to someone else's page, they would see our pages. So it's about using the community. Again, the easy answer is traditional marketing. So Facebook marketing, Instagram marketing, yeah, the meta market stuff.
That's awesome. And I just wanted to add to that's exactly what I was going to kind of say. Like tapping into community can be so vital. And then also too, like, you know, nobody knows the secret sauce to the algorithm. Obviously, if we did, if I did, I don't think I'd be here. I think I would be, at the gate trying to hide it from other people or trying to charge a ridiculous amount of money to give it out. But that being said, there's a lot to be said about growing organically on social media as well. I've worked with tons of different creators across different types of categories and types of games that have had success just organically sharing their stuff on social media across TikTok, Instagram, all different types of things. And yeah, I mean, obviously everyone's trying to go viral, but it really does only take one post. I worked with one video game that had a post that went viral and it led to a huge amount of traffic on their late pledges. So I think, there's always like this emphasis on meta and paid ads and stuff like that, but never underestimate the power of organic social media. And also to speaking to the community bit, like maybe you don't go viral, but of course you can utilize social media to continue to tap into that community and grow your community as well.
Thank you, Asia. Yeah, there was also a question here from Matthew about whether like paid ads or services like GelUp would be good for micro games. So I think that helps to address that. A follow-up to questions about launching and getting an audience. Is there this is from Craig. Is there a better time in May to launch a micro games campaign? Like, let's say the beginning of May. Is that better than the end of May? for both Simon or Asia?
Do you want to go first or?
I think you should go first, Asia.
Okay.
You know more the numbers.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, there's not a particularly like super strong time in May specifically, but I will say to just be mindful that PAX East has gotten moved to May. So if you're not going to be, if you're going to be at PAX East, it's like super beneficial to have it can be really beneficial to have your project live then. But if you're not going to be at PAX East, you might want to stagger a little bit post PAX East because attendees could have convention fatigue and have spent all of their money that weekend. So I wouldn't necessarily launch directly after PAX East, just for like a kind of specific timeline. But like other than that, most days in May are good. And then I know that there is, if you're based in the States, there is Memorial Day in the States, which is at the end of May. And it's not like a make or break thing, but we do try to advise creators against it's a Monday off for those not familiar, but like we'll have I think it's, let me see if I can bring it up. What's the date here? Specifically, it's the 26th of May. So since we normally recommend launching on Tuesdays, maybe like push that to a Wednesday, or just kind of maybe avoid that week because that can kind of skew numbers a little bit because people will be out taking long weekends, stuff like that. So just for specifics, but overall, May is a really great month to launch, and there's lots of windows of opportunity. But those kind of two windows of time are, I think, if anything, would be ones to kind of be mindful of.
Yeah,
Yes.
and oh,
Oh,
sorry,
may
go
I?
ahead. Go ahead, Simon.
Well, I have a few things. So Ben originally, we kind of talked about it. He originally said that he did May because I mean, it sounds like micro. That's the a little alliteration for micro, but also you can get a game to your backers before December, so before the end of the year. We were really, really fortunate to get our game. So last May, we were finished at the end of May, and we got it to them in September, which is really early, we know. But I think that's really important to get your games to your backers early, create that trust because it's all about trust on Kickstarter. The other thing about May that Ben said, and I always keep it in my mind, is he said if you start in the beginning of May, you should probably end in the end of May and not go into June. That's if you start at the beginning, just because then I think your backers will know, okay, I got to get it before the end of this month, and I got to make sure I press back before the end of the month. Personally, my answer is actually similar to Asia. We're going in the middle of May because I'm going to UKG, which is the game convention in the UK, and I'm going to GCC, it's game convention in Canada. And so we want to be at the conventions with our Kickstarter. I'm going to be giving QR codes. We also have a QR code on the back of the wallets. But so I want to be able to give my backers the option to buy the wallet or to back it on Kickstarter and then get the newer content for season 3. So yeah, I would think about your life. I'm also a teacher, so it's the end of the school year for me in the end of May. So I think just think about kind of how it works with your life because running a campaign does take a lot of work, and it's not the crazy amount of work, but do kind of fit it into your life and how it works.
And a clarifying question about can you submit a game to Micromay when you plan to launch a campaign in June? I think it would be great to sort of address that some of the comments that we've had in the chat about Micromay being promoted in May and being a May open call prompt.
Yeah, so due to it being specifically like an open call uh in May, we do want it the main caveat is that we want your project to be live in May. So like if you launch like let's say like May 31st and then you lead into June, which again, as Simon mentioned, not super ideal. Obviously, you want to kind of like front load it in May. It still will technically count, but the main thing is like you want your project to be live in May. So if you planned on launching like June 1st, that would technically not be a part of our open call. It wouldn't be a part of, our curated collection, and we wouldn't be able to necessarily, it also doesn't give us time to promote it as well and like really kind of speak to the open call to itself. So generally, like our main thing is just making sure that your project is live at some point during May.
Thanks. And then the next couple of questions I'll direct at mostly Simon. As a question for you about your what were your influences and inspiration in the creative process that led to the Maze series?
Wow, that is a really deep question. So I'm really grateful. I'll show it on the little wallet. I have a co-designer. So Andrew Dobson is my friend from New Zealand. Um, I definitely think that's the answer to this, the kind of inspirations and yeah. I was really lucky to be a part of the Game Artisans of New Zealand. They're GANs. They have a weekend retreat once a year. We go to a cottage and we just play games from sun up to sunset. It is amazing. And literally it's all just pieces of paper. It's just designers showing people their games. And it's really cool because I saw games there at the one retreat that I went to, and then they were on Kickstarter, and then now they're kind of like actually become big games. So I think just having a community of other designers is really important. If you don't have that in your country, I currently live in Ethiopia, so I don't have that here, but I have it online, and I have my friends back in New Zealand, and so there are so many online aspects of that. There are playtesting groups online. There are the Board Game Design Lab is the best thing to come for us designers. So yeah, I think finding a community was what inspired me, and I recommend that to anyone.
Thanks, Simon. Uh, and in terms of actually starting to build out and think about your project on Kickstarter, could you give us some tips about approaching like pricing at each level and what you think, how then that levels up to setting a funding goal so that you can be successful?
Yeah, it's a really good question and a hard question to answer. I think Asia kind of said this where, and I agree, is you need to make sure you're going to actually be able to make your product. So that's the awesome thing about Kickstarter, the all or nothing, yeah, uh, part of Kickstarter is that I figure out how much it's gonna cost to make these in China, and then to freight them over to the UK, and then to ship them. Because all these other things happen. The world is always changing, especially with shipping prices. And so yeah, so I would kind of like do all that math first, and that's always my backing limit. So that's where I'm trying to fund. And then I mean I haven't really said this before, but um like beyond that you can push beyond that and add extra things. But so that's where I would start. And then so you have that amount, and then I would divide it by what's a fair amount for your game. So I would divide that amount by what it makes sense. And then you do need to think. So I think for us, we were around like 10,000. I'm just kind of making numbers off the top of my head, but $10,000. These are around $15. And so we needed something like 400, 300, 400, or 500 people to get on there. And so I need to make sure that at least happens. Hopefully, obviously, we'll have more. But yeah, I think it's really just doing the math on how much it's going to cost, and then dividing it by how much you think it's a fair price for your game.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
totally agree with that. And
Filice.
that definitely speaks to like best practices of approaching how to create a funding model and pricing everything. And I think too, like if you feel like you're several steps before that, a helpful thing that I like to advise creators to do is to just look at projects on the site similar to yours. You can kind of see ideas for like pricing tiers and pricing rewards and stuff like that. And I also do like to always share with creators, like I have had many conversations with creators. I've never had one where I've been like, your game is too expensive. That's just never been something that I've come across. So I feel like always to, just make sure that you're also pricing your project fairly to like what you need, obviously, to make it, but then also, fairly to your own creativity and your own labor that you put into it as well.
And I have one more for you, Simon. And this is from Michael. Which mistake did you do on your campaign prep run or after that you would recommend anyone here to avoid?
Oh, that's such a good question. Um, Nothing really comes to mind. I think, that's a hard one. Let me kind of just talk about the first one. So exactly what Asia said in our presentation was we did our first one card maze season one as a print and play to see if people really like this idea, because I think that's really important. Someone even wrote in the comments saying starting it from a micro game and then go to a macro game. I think it's really important to see if people like this game, people want to play it, people want to spend money on it, um, and then go from there. A mistake I made. I guess a funny one, because I really want to talk to it, is we haven't really talked about stretch goals. I think Kickstarter really kind of started that and made it a thing. So a funny kind of not a mistake, but funny thing that I will do differently this season. In season two, we actually didn't have enough stretch goals. We hit all of our stretch goals, which was awesome, and then the campaign ended, so it actually kind of worked out perfectly. But this year we actually have planned way too many stretch goals, some extra printed stuff. Um, I think stretch goals are really important. So I'm going to kind of change topics a little bit. Stretch goals are really important because you can update people using them, and then they're also just they kind of act like a funding goal where it's like we get this now and we get this. And I know they've kind of been seen as like, oh, you're not giving the whole game, but for this is you're getting the whole game, but you're just getting more. So we actually packed this wallet has 18 cards. This one has 22 because we just kept adding cards until we finished our campaign. So I think stretch goals are really great, again, for backers and for the designers, where you can just keep making stuff. If people want it, why not make more?
Thank you, Simon.
Yeah.
And for Asia, I'll address like a couple questions to you now. In terms of like eligibility to run like a micro-May campaign, we have a question from Sarah asking, what is our policy if we have a project that has not fulfilled yet? So they have a Zine Quest campaign that's ending today and won't fulfill until August, but they would like to participate in micro-May.
Yeah, we do have some pretty specific rules around fulfillment and stuff like that. And essentially, this is, to protect creators and also protect backers. We do want to see that like your campaign has been fulfilled. Oh, great. Also, awesome. Nicole also they just dropped some information on running
Thank you.
multiple campaigns of fulfillment. I think ultimately, like, definitely feel free to, Sarah, to hit us up on games@kickstarter.com and like we can kind of talk a little bit more specifically about your situation. But yeah, Nicole just shared, once you have 4 fulfilled campaigns, you can have 3 unfulfilled ones, so you can qualify for something that we call overlapping fulfillment. But if you're not quite there yet, we are wanting to protect, creators and backers, and like wanting to make sure that you do fulfill your campaign before launching over to the next one. But definitely feel free to hit us up because like, there are always like certain caveats and situations to things. We try to be understanding in light of how shifting to shipping and figuring that stuff out can be. So definitely hit us up.
Thank you. And this one's from Richard, about any like resources the Kickstarter might have around like tools, templates, or spreadsheets for like setting up campaigns that are coming up in like the next 3 months. Can you speak about any resources that folks might be able to find?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We have like a bunch of webinars as well. It's Kickstarter Connects on YouTube. There are one that Nicole Amato did, our lovely Nicole Amato did one that's kind of a bigger, longer presentation of the one that I just gave that kind of gives a more specific rundown that you can check out. We also have our Launch Boom Learning Lab. I can see if I can find the link really quick. And that's a really great video series that you can check out that kind of does a good overview of like campaign basics essentially. But those are 2 great places I would recommend starting. One videos and stuff like that and like to read. And then also too our Kickstarter like creator resources like on our help articles are super helpful. I use them kind of on the daily for questions, so I recommend going there as well. But yeah, I will try to find that and drop that in the chat. Oh, awesome. Thank you, Yvonne.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so
I
much.
also recommend, just quickly again, I know I've said it a few times, but it's called Board Game Design Lab on Facebook. It is endless resources. There are files on there, but more importantly, like you said, Asia, people post their launch pages, and then we can just kind of dissect. Okay, you have an about. Okay, you have a stretch goals thing. You have a shipping thing. So it actually, I think what it does is it shows a really good kind of lots of ideas of all the different pieces you need for a successful campaign. And then there's also the micro-May page. Most of us in the next month are going to be working on that and then posting our pages, again, asking for advice, giving advice. And so both those places are great resources.
Yeah, and I'll ask us a couple more. Will micro-May be running every year?
We hope so. And I think right now we're having like, this is great evidence to continue to have it every single year. This is a great turnout. Thank you everyone who has come and like asked great questions. And yeah, we definitely want to advocate to have it year after year because I think it's a really fun open call to have. And yeah, so we'll definitely be champions of it. And I think this year is going to go amazing for it. The numbers speak for themselves. So yeah, our goal was definitely have in 2026 and beyond.
Thanks. And then the last question that we'll address is just from the Q&A box, and basically someone asking if they would like to join other related webinars or events. They found this one really super helpful. Where can they subscribe? I think if you're not already subscribed to our creator newsletter, that would be a great place. If there's any other place where they should be, where folks should be directed, please, thank you so much for adding that. You can subscribe there, and stay tuned for other events and webinars that we have coming up. We also share creator resources through there as well. So stay tuned. So with that, we'll conclude this webinar. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining today. We hope this session has been both helpful and inspiring as you plan your next project and possibly your next Micro May open call project. As I mentioned before, keep an eye on your inbox. We'll be sending out the link to the webinar recording along with other resources to help you plan for your upcoming campaign. Again, please subscribe to the creator newsletter if you aren't subscribed there already. We'll continue to share there tips and resources, upcoming webinars like this. If you have any questions on Micro May or upcoming projects, in case you've missed it, I'll drop here the resources that we shared earlier. But basically here, you have the links to read more about open call, about this particular open call, and the eligibility requirements and how to apply. And then if you have any specific questions, you can use our contact form to reach us, as well as the email that Asia shared earlier, which is games@kickstarter.com. Thanks again for being here, and we can't wait to see what projects you have in store and help you bring them to life. Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye.
you all so much.